Alright guys, it's been a while, but I'm back. I'm in my new garage. Gonna be installing the Z1 oil pan, and it's still in oil cooler, and this is on the 14 Q50s all-wheel drive. Never installed the oil cooler before, so this is gonna be my first time. Got my car up on the lift, and I'm gonna get started. First thing I'm obviously do is remove this shield under here, drain the oil out, take the oil filter off. And taking this bottom shield off is pretty easy. Just a bunch of 10 millimeters going all the way around. And I think there's a couple push clips. Yeah, got 3 of them. Alright, so I got the cover off. So the only reason I'm really changing this oil pan, and it's something you guys should pay attention to as well, because I noticed it on some other Q50s, is they start to rust out at the bottom, like mine. As you can see, I tried to spray paint some rust-proof stuff on there, and that clearly ain't working the way I thought. So I'm going to get started taking this oil pan off. Obviously, I'm going to drain the oil out first, but before I drain the oil, I'm going to spray some of my favorite stuff on all these bolts, all the way around and up top, right where you can kind of see where the bolt goes through at the top of the pan. Because what I'm not trying to do is snap a bolt. So I'm just going to go around and spray all them up. Alright guys, draining my oil. Probably something I should have thought about was possibly actually getting an oil drain for when you have a car on the lift, but you know, this ghetto setup will have to do for now. So I sprayed all my bolts down, top and bottom. Some of them you can't get the top, so I did bottom. Probably going to take the sway bar down. I'm pretty sure, because it'll give me more space to work, and I'm doing an oil cooler too. And when I do crack these 10 mils, I'm going to use a ratchet first, just to get them broken free, just so I can see if any of them are too tight or feel like they're going to snap, because what happens if you try to start doing it with a gun, you can just snap it because you're not going to know. So I'm just going to break them all free, then use my gun. If I can even get it in the back here. Might be a pain getting them corner bolts, but we'll see. Yeah, so I think I'm definitely going to take this sway bar down. These are just 14 mils. I'm going to see if I can just let it hang there. I'm probably going to have to end up taking the whole thing off. We'll see. Alright guys, so I'm just going to let my sway bar hang down. Definitely not the recommended way, especially if you're working on the ground, but I just didn't feel like taking them off of the sway bar links. So once this oil's done, completely draining, I'm going to start removing this pan. And I'm going to take the oil filter off too, because on the oil cooler, it comes with a new housing, new oil filter, so we'll see how that goes. Alright guys, so surprisingly I was able to break all them bolts free without a fight at all. If you're doing an oil pan on this, you could get to every single one easily besides this back corner. You're going to need a swivel with a 10 mil or just a 10 mil swivel, but that's it. Pretty simple. Alright, so it's 10 bolts for the oil pan. Obviously, I knew it wasn't going to come right down because for some reason Infinity used RTV instead of a gasket. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently pry around each corner until it starts to come down. I'm not going to get crazy with it. I don't want to nick any of the metal, so I'm going to take my time doing that. Okay, just so everyone can see what I'm doing, I start out by putting the screwdriver in here and hitting it with the hammer a little bit, trying to be as careful as I can. And then I did the same right here. Now I'm just going sideways like this to break the gasket with RTV free from the pan. Alright, so I got it broken free pretty good. Now I'm just going around with the pry bar, real nice, going around and breaking it free. It's kind of a pain, but not too bad. Okay, so got it broken free and out of there. So now the next thing that's going to be a pain is cleaning off all the old RTV all the way around. I'll just get a razor and take my time. Here's the old pan. And of course I made a mess, but that's just my style. I do believe I'm going to have to take this oil pickup off for the Z1 oil pan. I think that's just for the Z1 the oil pan though. I think it's just like a little extender that goes on there. Just double checking over here. Yeah, pretty confident that's what that is. So looks like they got 2 gaskets in there for that as well. So probably taking that pickup tube off next, but this is only if you're doing the Z1 oil pan. I tracked the car. This is a baffled one, so if you're taking corners super quick, you don't have to worry about oil starvation. It's always going to be picking up oil, unlike the stock one. Alright guys, I got this cleaned up as good as I'm going to get it. I started out using a razor to get all the big stuff off, and then I used a little wire wheel on my Dremel tool just to get the remainder of the stuff off. With this you don't got to worry about gouging the metal or anything, so just a tip there if you're doing the same thing. Alright guys, and to get these oil pickup bolts out, very easy. It's just 2 12mm bolts. I just used an extension with a deep 12mm socket. You shouldn't have to worry about snapping them. They're literally in oil all the time, so relatively easy to get off. Alright guys, and here's what it looks like without the oil pickup tube in there. Got this in my hand. Doesn't look like there's any gasket. So I just double check everything. Make sure I didn't drop anything. No gasket, all good. Cool, so I'm gonna move on to the next part. Alright guys, and what I like about this kit is it comes with new oil pan bolts. Got the new pickup tube bolts. Obviously you're gonna need them anyway because it's gonna be longer now. And it comes with the 2 gaskets. Looks like one goes on each side of that extender. So I'm gonna get started. Alright guys, getting this set up. I got both my gaskets on both sides. And this is what your oil pickup's going to look like when you're going to put it back up in there. Alright guys, just putting these bolts back in. This is how it looks once you get it up there. You're going to want to torque these according to Z1 to 16 foot-pounds. Or just, make sure they're tight. You're an experienced mechanic. Alright guys, here comes the part that I hate. I wish they actually had a gasket for this. It'd be so much easier, but whatever. So we got to put a bead of this RTV around the oil pan. I'm just going to go around real nice. Make sure I get good around the bolt holes. Go all around. I'm checking in this pan before I put it up there, even though it's brand new. I don't really trust anything. Making sure there's no metal or anything in here from manufacturing. And then after that, I'm going to put it up on the car. And one more thing I'd like to mention before you put your new oil pan up there, make sure the whole surface is clean. Like you see, every time I clean this off, I got drips of oil coming down. So I'm just going to wipe everything off one last time before I put it up there, and then it should be good to go. Alright guys, I'm just trying to help people out as much as I can. I know not everyone is an experienced mechanic, but just to catch a trick with this RTV, obviously when you go to open it up, it's sealed. That's what this is for. You just flip it around, poke it in there, break that free, and then you can go ahead and you can put your applier on there, which looks like you're going to have to cut the tip off just a little bit because there's no open hole on there. Alright guys, so on my dikes, I'm just probably going to cut maybe that much off right there. Alright. Right now I'm going to start applying this to the oil pan. So you want to try to be relatively quick once you apply this on the oil pan. You want to get it up there as soon as you can. Like I said, just make sure that surface is dry. Put it up there, get them bolts in, and then we can start torquing them down once we get the bolts up there and just snugged up in the meantime. Alright guys, just showing a quick example of how the RTV looks the way I put it. Make sure it's around all the bolt holes. I kind of went Picasso on here only because I do not feel like taking this back down again. I want to make sure this is sealed up there good. Alright everyone, this is the reason why I make these videos. Try to make everyone else's life a lot more easier than mine, especially if this is a job you want to start and you're like, let me check out a video first. So here's the issue with this. This corner bolt, when you're putting it back in, literally impossible to get to. Let me see if I could kind of get a light up in there for you guys. Yeah, like you can't even see it. It was tough for me to get up there. I mean, you had some room on this side. So yeah, you can see that bolt in the corner. I got it up in there. So I was able to get my extension and 10 mil up here. But the problem was I needed to jack the motor up. Well, I just got this new garage of mine and lift, so I don't have a dolly. So what I did was I lowered the subframe bolts a little bit. Nothing crazy, not breaking them all the way down. There's 4 of them, 2 on each side. Also, this brace over here, lowered these bolts just a little bit, and these ones I loosened on the control arm, and then the bolts to this actual subframe on this brace. So just wanted to lower that a little bit, and then what I did was I lowered the car all the way down, put the jack on the motor, jacked the motor up, and then I was able to finally get an extension with a 10 mil up in there. But before you do this job, I would recommend actually getting a 10 mil with the extension built on it, shallow, because it is literally such a pain. And that's what I would have did. I would have ran out and got the correct tool or something that would have made my life easier, but didn't want this RTV to dry up on me before I got all these bolts tightened. So just hopefully that makes one of your guys' life easier. Other than that, it's installed. It does say to wait 30 minutes before you add oil. I'm gonna wait like a couple days. I got another vehicle anyway, plus I'm doing an oil cooler install after this video. This pan does not come with a drain plug, so I don't know if the stock one's gonna work or I'm gonna have to order one from the Z1. Guess I'll find out real quick. Try to pop this drain plug in there. It does look like it fits. Yeah, that's good enough for me. I don't really care about the drain plug, so I'll just stick with the original one. But there you go. Hope that helps you guys out. And guys, if you end up doing this the same way that I did this, just make sure to tighten back up all your subframe bolts and everything. Again, it's just 2 on each side and the brace over there. Like I said, that's just the way that I did it. Maybe someone else might know an easier, quicker way, but that's all I could think of on the fly. I'm assuming this is probably not the same setup on the G37 or 370Z or whatever other car 3.7 comes in, but maybe even rear wheel drive is different on the Q50. I don't know, but this is 2014 Q50S all wheel drive, so maybe this design's a little bit different. Maybe that's why others haven't struggled, but just a heads up. And don't forget to put your sway bar back up. I'm leaving this down for the next project, which is the oil cooler install, which will be a separate video.